Hi everyone, in this video we are going to discuss the questions that were asked from the module Communication for English Afternoon Shift of NTA UGC NET December 2020 and June 2021 merge cycles. So here you have the first question. Identify the correct sequence of the following types of visual communication. So you have you're given various options here, and these options are actually the various types of visual communication, and you have to identify the correct sequence that is there between the different types of visual communication. So the options are objects, maps, graphs, photographs, and finally models. So what do you mean by this visual communication? Visual communication simply means it is the means of delivering a message through visual elements, which includes these illustrations, drawings, photographs, electronic images, so on and so forth. So basically we are communicating or we are delivering a message through different visual elements. So that is what we are called, or that is what we are defined as the visual communication, and we have various types of visual communication as well. So the various types, or the 5 important types of visual communication includes objects, models, graphs, maps and photographs. So these are the 5 important types of visual communication. So this is the sequence that is asked in the question that we have discussed. So just consider the question again. Identify the correct sequence of the following types of visual communication. So first we have objects. Objects is option A. Then we have models. Models is option E. So A, E. Then you have graphs. Graphs is option C. So A, E, C. Then we have maps and photographs, right? So maps is B and photographs is D. So if that's the case, the option is A, E, C, B, D, that is option B. So the right answer for this question is option B. Moving to the next question, this is a statement question. You have given 2 different statements. So let's try the statements first, and then we'll be discussing about the meanings of the statements that are given. Statement 1. A two-way communication takes place when the encoding and decoding are in operation with equal frequency by 2 or more individuals. So what do you mean by this particular statement? You have given 2 important terms here, encoding and decoding. What do you mean by encoding? It is the transfer of ideas into a particular form that can be transformed through a communication. So when we are communicating to someone else, what we are doing there? We are transferring our ideas into a particular form that could be understood by the other person in the communication. So that process of converting or transmitting our ideas into a particular form, maybe it's in a text form or in a words form, anything of that sort. So that transferring or that transmitting of ideas into a form that can be understood by the other person or the receiver in the communication can be called as encoding. And you have another term, that is decoding. What do you mean by decoding? When a receiver is receiving a message, they are receiving it as a code, right? So when you are receiving a message in your phone, you are delivering a message, you have to interpret and you have to understand the meaning of that particular message. When we are hearing to someone or when you are listening to someone, at that point of time also you are listening something and you are interpreting what you are listening, and then you are coming up with different meanings or ideas. Then only you can respond to that particular message. So this process of converting these codes or these ideas that you have got and interpreting it and understanding the meaning, that can be called as decoding. So it is the sender who encodes a message and it is the receiver who decodes a message. So what else can be found in this particular statement? A two-way communication takes place when the encoding and decoding are in operation with equal frequency by two or more individuals. Obviously, if a communication is two-way communication, obviously there is the presence of people more than one, right? There are people, two or more individuals should be there in a two-way communication. And also this encoding decoding process, this process is in operation with equal frequency. What do you mean by that? A sender encodes a message and the sender transmits, or the sender is sending this message to a receiver. The receiver is decoding that particular message, and after understanding that particular message, this particular receiver is sending back a feedback, right? So that is why we call it as a two-way communication. A sender sends a message, receiver receives it, and then that particular person is giving a feedback. So that's why this is two-way in nature. In that respect, we can say that the sender encodes a message, sends it to a receiver who decodes it, and then this particular receiver who have got the meaning, he is the person who is sending a feedback. So at that particular point, when this particular receiver is sending a feedback, he returns, or he turns to be a sender. So encoding, decoding, again this receiver becomes the encoder. So in that sense, encoding, decoding is a process that happens in a two-way communication with equal frequency between two or more individuals. So that's what stays here. So two-way communication takes place when the encoding, decoding are in operation with equal frequency by two or more individuals. That simply means the sender sends a message which is received by a receiver, and after that this receiver will be sending back a reply to the sender who has given or who has sent him a message. So in that respect, this encoding decoding process is happening with equal frequency between these different people who are involved in a communication. Statement 2 says, the communicator and the communicatee are related by the communication circuits, and the success of communication depends upon the level of reciprocity between them. So this is again the same thing that is mentioned here. We have a communicator and a communicatee here. We have a sender and a receiver. They are related in a communication through a circuit, or they are in a circular communication, and the success of a communication ultimately depends upon the reciprocity between them. That means a sender is sending a message and the receiver has to send a response back, right? Then only we can understand that whether this receiver has already understood, or whether this receiver understood what we have already sent to them as a message, and whether this person got the real meaning, or is there any kind of misunderstanding. All these things can be sorted out only through this kind of a two-way communication, or through this reciprocity between these people who are engaged in a communication. Otherwise, we cannot make sure that this particular communication is effective. In that respect, both the statements that are given, statement 1 and statement 2 are correct. So statement 1 and statement 2 are correct is option A. So the right answer is option A. Another question, the third question. So here you have a match the following question given. In list 1 you have the various communication components, and in list 2 you have the descriptions. So when we have learned about, or when we have analyzed this particular module communication, we have already said that process of communication is one of the most important areas that we have to study. So there are various elements or various components that are involved in the entire process of communication, and a few of those components are given here. We have medium, channel, codes, content information in list 1, and in list 2 we have the description, facts, verbal and non-verbal signs, route by which the message travels, physical means to transmit the message. So first and foremost, we have to identify the difference between medium and channel. So medium is basically the means of communication, how you are communicating, the means of communication, which includes is it in a written form, oral form, non-verbal form, those kinds of things are focused there. Channel is basically the means of transmission. Okay, in that respect, we can say that is it through an electronic media that you are sending your message, is it a printed media, or what is that particular means of transmission of your message. So that is channel. So please keep that in mind and just consider the options that are given here. Medium channel codes content information, facts, verbal and non-verbal signs, routes by which the message travels, physical means to transmit the message. So the medium in this particular question can be associated with option 4, that is physical means to transmit the message, how we are transmitting the message, the physical means. Channel can be associated with option 3, route by which the message travels, how we are transmitting, the means of transmission, and here it is the means of communication. So medium can be associated with physical means to transmit the message. Channel can be associated by route by which the message travels, and codes can be associated with verbal and non-verbal signs. When we are in a communication, all these things that are involved, the verbal, the words that we are using, and also the non-verbal signs, that means our body language or gestures or eye contact, eye movement, all these things are basically codes. That's why we say it as the process of encoding and decoding, right? So in that respects, code can be associated with verbal and non-verbal signs. So C can be associated with option 2, and content information, what you are sending through this message, what is the content or the information that is carried by this particular message, that is basically facts. Right, in that respect we can say that A can be associated with 4, B3, C2 and D1. So A4, B3, C2 and D1 is option C. So the right answer for this question is option C. Moving to the next question, human communication involves, and we have various options given here, patterns, social interactions, use of abstract meanings only, conflict oriented actions only, neural activities of the brain, psychological activities. And we have various options here. We have to find out 3 appropriate answers or options for this particular question. So human communication involves, first option is pattern, social interaction. Social interaction means the interaction that happens between different people in a conversation, right? So it has a lot of influences, like we have our cultural influences in our social interactions, and that actually creates a certain kind of pattern. So there is a pattern or a style in which we are interacting to other people. So it has various influences as well. So human communication is always having a patterned social format to it. In that respect, patterned social interactions can be taken as an answer for this question. Option B, use of abstract meanings only. That is wrong, right? So abstract meanings, abstract ideas or very conceptual ideas, is that the only thing that we are communicating through a communication? That's wrong, right? Use of abstract meanings only can be eliminated from the options. And then we have conflict oriented actions only. Is communication primarily focuses on conflict? No. Actually, communication focuses on conflict resolution, right? So conflict oriented actions only cannot be taken as an option for human communication. Effective communication doesn't focus on conflict, or it is not conflict oriented in that respect. So C can be eliminated. Neural activities of the brain. That is right. Communication actually involves various activities, neural activities of the brain. So when we say that this process of encoding, we are thinking of various ideas and we are turning these ideas into words or in a form that is understood, that can be understood by the receiver. All these things involves a lot of activities, neural activities. In that respect, neural activities of the brain can be associated with human communication. And then you have psychological activities. Obviously, psychological activities also have a very major influence in our human communication. In that respect, you can just eliminate option B and C, and other 3 options can be taken as an answer for this question. So A, D and E. A, D and D only is option B. So the right answer for this question is option B. Moving to the next question. color as a means of communication has meanings that mostly emanate from one's own. And you have the options choices, culture, educational background and social status. So this question is actually asked in the previous years as well. So it is actually a question that has come, came repeatedly. That is what we can understand from this, because in one of the previous exams, NET exams, they have already asked this question. Color in communication can be associated with, or color in communication is influenced by. So obviously the right answer for this question is option B, culture. So when we are connecting meanings to a particular color, that has a lot of cultural elements to it. So it is having a lot of cultural roots or a lot of cultural influences to it. It is dependent upon our cultural inclination. That is how we are perceiving different meanings to different colors. I hope this thing is understood by you. We are associating meanings to different colors, and these meanings that we are associating with colors is basically associated with the culture in which we are grown up. So color as a means of communication has meanings that mostly emanate from one's own culture. So it has a lot of cultural connotation when it comes to, you know that when we say color, if we consider red as a color, red has several meanings to it. When we see the color red, we can actually connect a lot of meanings to it. Black, we have a lot of meanings to it, right? So these meanings that we are giving to these different colors is actually having a lot of influence of our culture and the tradition that in which we are grown up. So that is what it asks here, and also this is a question that is already asked in the previous NET exams as well. So color as a means of communication has meanings that mostly emanate from one's own culture, and the right answer for this question is culture, and that is option B. So the right option is option B itself. So in this video, we have discussed the various questions that were asked from the module communication for English afternoon NET exam that happened very recently, the December 2020, June 2021 merge cycles. So I hope this video is really helpful for you to understand the various questions that were asked in this particular shift, and to understand the way in which we can expect questions from the module communication as well. So it actually included general kind of questions as well as very theoretically based questions as well. So in our upcoming videos also, we will be focusing on various shifts, and we will be focusing on the questions that were asked from each of these shifts, and particularly focusing on the 10 different modules of NTA UGC NET paper 1. So thanks for watching and happy learning.